Last time on Kipper Tales, we had a viewing of a Moody 33 Mark II. And we shared how depressing it can be to watch your shortlist getting ever shorter.
Nope.
And finally, we brought you some significant news. We've now reached a point where tough decisions have had to be made. And today is the day that our boat shopping ends. And that's because we bought a boat. How cool is that? Well, before we share the news on what we bought, we wanted to bring you an update on a boat that we'd previously been to view. Remember Double T, the Westerly Seahawk 35 in Swansea? Well, as you know, we really like that boat. Unfortunately, since our viewing and sea trial, there's been a few developments. This happened.
What?
Yes, fooled you there, didn't we? When we shared our viewing of Double T, we knew that the boat was beyond budget. But as our shortlist was getting ever shorter, we thought, we've got nothing to lose by opening a dialogue with the vendor. Well, to our surprise, we were actually able to agree a price within budget. Well, after the successful sea trial, etc., and completing the formalities and obviously parting with the hard-earned, we were at last the new owners of Double T. So, like any other new boat owner, we spent quite a lot of time sort of going through the boat and finding what was where. Personally, I'm still blown away with this cockpit locker. It's massive. We also started to come across a few little snags, but that's to be expected with a used boat. One of them was the fact that the bow thruster didn't seem to want to work. And it was only later that we really appreciated how much we really wanted that bow thruster. But we were also aware that we need to get the boat moved from Swansea to our home berth in Neyland. So, just to put things into perspective for you, Double T was in Swansea Marina, which is on the south coast of Wales, here in the UK. It sits on the northern side of the Bristol Channel, a formidable stretch of water in its own right. Swansea City, of course, also known for its football team. And it was also the car theft capital of the UK at one stage. So plans were made and we arrived ready for an early start. Unfortunately, it was already blowing old boots and hissing rain. And the forecast for the morning looked like it could literally go either way. But we were glad of a night out and did decide to go and sample some of the local delights before we spent the night on board Double T. Well, next morning in the marina, it was blowing a little bit, but it seemed okay. But looking out into the bay, it was a very different story, and the forecast was suggesting we'd have a headwind for the whole trip. So we decided, you know what, we'll wait for another day. We decided to get on with some of the housekeeping jobs, like getting fuel. We then spend a few hours manoeuvring in the marina and getting the feel for how the boat reacts. I've got to say, it was a harrowing experience, somewhere between bedwetting and a nervous breakdown, but ultimately it did pay dividends. At last, conditions were right to have another go at this. So the plan was to make our way out early in the morning, out past the swing bridge, through the marina lock, and out into the Towie lock on the river. Then make our way down the channel and out into the Mumbles Bay. From the channel, we'd make our way out towards the Mixon Buoy off the Mumbles, dipping our toe into the Bristol Channel. We'd then follow along the Gower and across Carmarthen Bay. We would then pick up the Pembrokeshire coast and have the diversion option of going to Tenby if need be. But the plan really was to head to the anchorage at Dale. Of course, the secondary plan was to be there before closing time. A distance of over 60 miles on day one, and then finish it off on day two with a run up the Cleddau. Well, best laid plans, as the saying goes, and we got up in the morning to find it thick with fog. In fact, it was so bad you couldn't see one end of the marinas from the other. So we delayed our departure, and it did burn off within the marina.
Can you spot double T? Is that one right there, the only one with their ensign out.
While the fog had gone from the marina itself, we were actually in for a rude awakening when we came out of the lock. Schoolboy error or what? Yes, indeed, it was pea soup. Of course, my mistake was seeing that the fog had cleared within the marina, and I didn't take a walk out to have a look out into the Mumbles Bay just to be sure before we committed. And of course, there's no wind to help clear the fog. So with no wind at all, we had to motor sail out into the Mumbles Bay, following the chart plotter very, very closely and a good lookout. Unfortunately, we didn't have any radar, so it was eyeball Mark 1. Rather disturbingly, on some occasions we did hear boat engines, but we never saw them. I found myself wishing for both radar and AIS most of the day, I can tell you. As you stare into the fog and look out, it doesn't take long before your imagination starts to run wild. And you begin to imagine all kinds of things. Is that some kind of spectral bell? Are we that close in? We're about to head to church. Wait, I see something. No, it's a bottle. I don't know, my imagination's running crazy here. Calm down, will you? Get a grip. Anyway, checking the chart, it says the Mixon Buoy has a bell on it. It's not a church after all. If I do seem a little bit jumpy here, I think maybe I'm justified, because in my mind I know I'm totally reliant on the chart plotter and my charts. And if they're wrong, I'm wrong. This could be disaster, because I know out there in the gloom is the Helic Pass and its various cardinal markers that guard the shoal waters around the Worm's Head. The Worm's Head sits at the end of the Gower Peninsula and extends over a mile out into the Carmarthen Bay. It's very popular with tourists, and from a mariner's point of view, it does offer some shortcuts if you're making a beeline for Tenby. But rest assured, it's fraught with dangers. It's got rocks, it's got fishing gear, and all manner of nasties. And it's certainly not a place we want to be on a day like this. So we made the best of a bad situation really, and just tried to make the most of it, hoping that eventually the fog would lift. After about 20 miles, it did. The delayed start meant we were into a foul tide, and what little wind there was just abandoned us. So our progress was pretty slow really, unfortunately, and by the time we were off Tenby it was actually starting to think about supper time. But this great day still had a few more surprises for us. We were about to get a visit from our friends the dolphins, and then one hell of a sunset. Whilst we were enjoying the wonderful weather and smooth seas, the problem was we weren't making great progress. So we did think seriously about making our way to the alternate port in Tenby for overnight there. Unfortunately, looking at day 2, the weather looked a bit ropey, so we decided we'd persevere with this, even if it meant there was be a cost and consequence when we got to Dale. Specifically, missing last orders. Dale is a popular spot with boaters and tourists alike, and it sits about as far southwest as you can get here in Wales. It's only beaten by St David's, believe it or not many miles away. Dale Bay can get particularly busy, especially during the summer months, and it is festooned with all sorts of moorings, boats anchored, and all manner of other things like prohibited areas for anchoring. There's even actually a pontoon out in the bay that people can use for free, which is all well and good, but in my experience, it's almost always busy on a nice day, and it's really not a place you want to be if the weather's a little bit bumpy. In fact, you're better off on your own hook. But having so many moorings around the place means that this could be a particularly tricky place in poor weather, and in the dark, this is going to be a very different beast. Arriving in Dale in the dark, the big problem for me was the various lights. The big question is, are these anchor lights I'm looking at, or are they some sort of street lights? It's very difficult to get any sort of definition, so a careful approach was a must. But I have to say that this little beauty really saved my bacon. It's a £30 torch, and it's one of the brightest bits of kit I've ever seen in my life. If it's held over the side, close to the waterline, it was really useful for picking up buoys and other moored boats, etc., and it helped us find our way into the anchorage safely. As we expected, we missed closing time, but the important thing was we were here safe. At about 1 o'clock in the morning, I was pretty happy that the hook was quite settled, and we got our heads down, ready for day 2. Next time, join us for part 2 of our delivery. Well, next morning couldn't have been any more different. Yesterday, it was t-shirt and shorts. Today, it's wet weather gear. Join us as we make our way into Neyland Marina and have a hair-raising experience trying to get back onto the berth. And we make an alarming discovery, which means that our delivery trip is not quite over yet, and we have to make a hurried trip back down the Cleddau. We get to see some of the big craft coming in and get out of the way. It'll be a trip that'll bring some ups, some downs, some mechanical issues, and even the odd nautical noodle. But always spectacular views. And we really hope you'll join us. See you next time.